Georgia, peaches. Not everything was peachy keen, Jelly Bean, for the Phoenix Suns tonight as they went to Atlanta and lost 129 to 120. What is it about Atlanta? Seriously, I think this is like the 10th consecutive game the Suns have lost in Atlanta. I don't know what it is. It's something in the air. Something in the orange tells me that it's not done. But the Phoenix Suns lose. They're now 3-3 on their road trip with one game left to go on this long 7-game road trip, which will commence in Washington, D.C. on Sunday. So we'll talk about this. We'll talk about this loss to the Hawks and why the Suns sometimes just don't know how to play defense. And Matthew's not here tonight. He had one too many peach schnapps in preparation for playing against the team from the Peach State, the Atlanta Hawks. So I'm joined by the man who, well, if it has to do with the Phoenix Suns, he's going to make a video about it. You know who it is. Give it up for Suns Geek.
What is up, my brother? I don't know which camera to point to. How you doing, man? Thank you so much for inviting me on and ready to talk about this really frustrating loss, man.
Yeah, it's one of those ones where I think that going into it, there's an expectation of winning. You just played well against a team in the Brooklyn Nets who aren't really big on the interior, have some wing players, but are a little discombobulated on defense. And now you're playing a team that has like the 29th worst defense in the NBA. And you're like, okay, we just need to outscore them. Even if we suck on defense, we can do that. And then the Suns sucked on defense. And it was just kind of one of those weird games going back to the fact that we just can't win in Atlanta for some reason.
Yeah, 100% with you, man.
Don't get it. But we'll try to get it here on the Suns Jam Session / Suns Geek mashup if you're watching on YouTube. So if you're mashing it up on the tube, hit Hulk smash that thumbs up button, subscribe, rate, review. If you're listening to the podcast at another date or time, please head over to the Apple site. Give us 5 stars, write a review. There are a couple new reviews, but I'll wait till Matthew's back to read those. So everybody, I know that it's Friday night. You're probably going to want to pop them if you got them. So let's pop them. I got this peach schnapps IPA straight from Georgia, ATL. What are you drinking there, Geek?
Well, last time I was on the pod with Matthew, I said I wasn't going to drink until trade deadline / Super Bowl weekend. But you know what? I needed a beer today, so I actually got a beer for once. And it is a good old Coors Light.
There you go.
I need one after today, man. I know you're there with me too, bro.
Crack them if you got them, Suns fans. We're cracking them with you. And let's talk, like Suns Geek said, about a frustrating loss at the hands of the Atlanta Hawks. Cheers. To 120, the Phoenix Suns once again lose against the Atlanta Hawks in Atlanta, which of course brings me to my first question.
Oi, Matty. Mate, I've got to ask.
You're not Matthew, you're Brandon, you're the Suns Geek. But I got to ask you, what is it with Atlanta? Why can't we win in Atlanta?
I have no clue, man. Maybe it's just a string of bad luck, if you will. Maybe it's just like the wrong place, the wrong time every time we go there. But that's got to be some kind of bad Suns record. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
It just makes zero sense, especially since we've been contenders for the last 3 years. And this record is dating back how far again? You know what I mean? It's like, I don't know. And that might even be an NBA record. I don't remember the last time a team hasn't won in a certain state against that team, and however long it's been. It's just frustrating. That just goes along with how frustrating tonight was. I will say this, though. This loss wasn't as frustrating as the Orlando one, which I was live on both channels, Suns Jam and Suns Geek channels, and I was ranting and venting the whole time with our good friend Matthew Lissy. But this one was definitely one of those ones where they should be kicking themselves after. You know what I mean?
Absolutely. Yeah. 10 consecutive losses in Atlanta. This is an Eastern Conference team, so you only see them once a year in their home arena. So it's been since like 2013 since they've won there. Maybe 14. I don't know how the math works out, but it's been a long, long time. And I don't know what it is about Atlanta either. There's something in it that just doesn't make sense. Now, they mentioned on the broadcast that obviously the Atlanta Hawks is who we played just after the trade deadline last year, after we gutted our team for Kevin Durant. So therefore, it made sense that we didn't win there last year because we were vastly undermanned.
And everybody loses on trade deadline day.
Yes.
You know what I mean?
Yes.
Yeah.
So it's just it's an interesting scenario that we faced tonight because the Suns were fighting an uphill battle the majority of the game. Got down by 11 in the first half, fought back, and we're constantly, there was 13 ties, 9 lead changes in this game, but the Suns just couldn't win it in the fourth again. And it comes down to the same old adage that we have with the Suns. It's their ball security in the fourth quarter just becomes, somebody said the Suns are booty juice. I like that. Not that the Suns are booty juice. Yeah, Coda Kid says Suns are pure booty juice. The Suns are pure booty juice in the fourth quarter.
Yes.
So tonight in the fourth quarter, 8 turnovers. 8 led to 12 points. There you go.
Ball game right there.
Yeah, and we only we got outscored by 4 points in that third quarter, or I'm sorry, that fourth quarter, but we entered down 5. So we forced 5 turnovers, but we scored 0 points off of them. And if you look at the totality of the game, the Suns 17 points, 17 turnovers led to 21 points for the Hawks. And conversely, they only had 10, and we only scored 5 off those turnovers. So in my opinion, it's as simple as that. We'll delve down a couple little avenues of, I wouldn't say the blame game, just kind of like what's going on there game. But at the end of the day, I think it's that simple. Yeah. Is it not? Am I missing something? Because I see a lot of the Jamsters, a lot of the Geek Squad are in the chat, and they're saying that it's the defense, and we need to fire the coaching staff, and the defense needs to go, and this, that, the other. Is it as simple as the turnovers, or is there something I'm missing?
Everybody panic. Everyone hit the panic button. Season's over. Blow it up. Trade everyone at that. No, I'm just kidding.
Trade deadline's like a week away. Make it happen.
Exactly. Yeah. Blow it up. Let's just start over, start fresh. But no, in all seriousness, it's more than a numbers game, even though I do like my numbers and I like my stats and facts. But it's like, John, you've played basketball. I've played basketball. Even if you just go play basketball in the park, if you turn the ball over, the other team is going to win. And I have been so salty and bitter about the way we have turned the ball over since the beginning of the season, which is why when I did the last Suns podcast with you guys, when Matthew was there, I was bitching and ranting about the turnovers. Excuse my language, but I was pissed off, man. How many did we have in this game and how many did we have in the fourth quarter? It is unacceptable. Frank Vogel should be screaming at them in the locker room. And I'm serious, man. That is just absolutely terrible. And again, put the numbers aside. If you literally hand them the basketball in any game at any level of basketball, I don't even care if it's fifth graders playing out there, the other team is probably going to win, man. It really is that simple. Sometimes basketball can be a little tough to analyze and break down, but this was just one of those simple games, man. And the numbers are right in front of you.
Yeah, there's a couple things that consistently will shoot you in the foot. Turnovers being the primary, and the others when you give up a lot of offensive rebounds and seconds.
That too.
Those 2 things are just crippling. It's like in football, if you throw an interception and you lose the turnover battle, the odds are not in your favor. And that's how it goes tonight. Now, Stephen Elliott says in the chat, no ball handler equals turnovers. It isn't.
Yep.
But I don't know if I necessarily agree with that because I read that and correct me if I'm wrong, Stephen, watching, and thank you for your support. It's going back to the we need a point guard conversation. That's what that's kind of saying, in my humble opinion. And I'm not sure if that's necessarily true because you look at the numbers and you look at the performance when the team wins. Nobody's sitting there saying, well, we need a point guard when we're going out, we're beating the Nets by 16 points, right? No, we held on to the ball. It's not the fact that it's Devin Booker turning the ball over with such regularity. Tonight, Kevin Durant turned the ball over 4 times. Grayson Allen turned it over 2 times. Devin Booker had 2 times. Yusuf Nurkic had 1. Eric Gordon had 2. Bradley Beal, yeah, he had 4. But it's not one guy who's turning the ball over. It's not like you have this issue where one guy's consistently turning over because he's the one who should be facilitating and he's not doing a good job of it. It's a team effort of bad ball handling at times. And
Yep.
the Suns, it comes at inopportune times. It's the fourth fucking quarter.
Yeah. And I was doing some quick math there, and I'm bad at math and everything, but I believe our starting 5 had 29 assists compared to maybe like 12 turnovers or something like that. So it's, I'll take it. And we could probably have our own podcast and an hour-long podcast about, do the Suns need a point guard? Like, I just made a video about it today, shameless plug, talking about the Miles Bridges, Tyus Jones rumors and all that. And it's like, if this team truly does believe that Kevin Durant, Devin Booker, Bradley Beal, who, by the way, had 10 assists tonight, I'm sure we're going to talk about that later. If they truly do believe that those 3 can be our point guards, then I am all for it. But it is kind of just how you broke it down. It's like turnovers at the wrong times, maybe being a little too unselfish, if you will, at certain times. Floor spacing is really important. You know what I mean? And just, again, it was just one of those rough nights. And it's like I said, man, if you turn the ball over, the other team's going to be in the ball game, man. It's just one of those losses where the Suns should be kicking themselves.
Yes.
But hey, I mean, at least with the starting 5, 29-12 or whatever in terms of assists and turnovers, not too bad. But
yeah,
those turnovers in the fourth were costly.
The standard, if you will, like the industry standard for assist to turnover ratio, you want to be between 2.5.
Yeah.
Right. Like that's where you want to kind of live. If you're under 2.5 or 2, if you're like a 1.5 assist to turnover ratio, that essentially means for every assist you make, every assist and a half you make, you're turning the ball over once.
Yeah.
You go and you look at some of the great point guards and they're 3-1, 4-1, or, that's when you start to get into to some outliers. As a team, 2-1 isn't bad. I like what the QC says in the chat. He says turnovers are lazy. Don't act disappointed when you over and over decide to do lazy things like that. It's what's going to happen. That's what my concern is. It's not the lack of a facilitator. It's not the lack of a true point guard. It's a lack of focus. And we've seen this off and on with the Suns. And unfortunately, when it happens, it seems to happen in the fourth quarter. It's not because there's not anyone out there to facilitate. Bradley Beal and Kevin Durant started the fourth quarter with Devin Booker on the bench with 4 fouls. And he came back with about 9 minutes left because the Suns were down 9 at that point. They needed him out there, not so much from a facilitation standpoint, but from an offensive standpoint. It's lazy passes. It's doing those things where you're throwing the ball out of bounds. It's inbounding the ball and allowing pressure to dictate, letting the opposition to dictate the pressure that creates turnovers. That's what's the frustrating thing. And believe you me, and you know this, Suns Geek, opposing teams send scouts ahead. 2 to 3 games ahead. So that's to say the Hawks scout most likely was at the Miami game and definitely was at the Orlando game. And guess what he saw in the Orlando game? Play physical with the Suns, push them off their spots, play them 3/4 to full court at times. They will make mistakes. If you play the Suns 3/4 to 4 to full court press 7 times in a game, you're going to get 2 to 3 turnovers out of that. You're going to get extra possessions. That's that's the scouting report that the Phoenix Suns have put out into the ether due to their lack of focus and the way that they play in the fourth quarter.
110%, man. And also those scouts probably told, the team whatever, get the crowd behind them too, because that'll kind of get the Phoenix Suns to call a little panic timeout and everything. But you're absolutely right, man. How many times do we see tonight and really all season long where guys can just, walk into the rim, just casually stroll to the rim and score easily like that? Just so many defensive breakdowns tonight, especially, again, when players were driving to the rim. And again, man, I cannot talk enough about those turnovers, man. That's just what absolutely killed us. And it's just frustrating, man, because I saw your description in the Suns Jam. You said, the Hawks have been struggling. Can we keep them down?
Yep.
Again, I just kind of feel like we were sort of like, there were probably some things that should have swung our way, especially those 3 points that were taken away from us. I'm not saying that's why we lost the game, but it was just one of those things like Trae Young got snubbed to be an all-star. He definitely should be an all-star. And he's like, I'll just let it out on the Phoenix Suns.
Yep.
And the Atlanta Hawks as a team, they had a lot of players contributing tonight as well. And again, it's just one of those frustrating losses where we should be kicking themselves, man. Maybe the Suns need a little bit of a better scouting department as well, because too many losses like this tonight.
Well, some fun statistics for you, everybody, and in honor of my late great friend,
Ooh, dang, stat me.
Dave. The Suns now are a negative 175 in the fourth quarter cumulative on the season. That's last in the league. So here's a question for you. Okay. The Suns are a negative 175 in the fourth. Now, granted, they were only outscored by what, like 4 points in the fourth tonight. So not like a huge chasm, but you know,
it wasn't like it was a blowout or anything.
Exactly. But I'm looking at the statistic, and you know, Jamsters and Geek Squad, I'll let you guys kind of play this little trivia game in the chat as well. And if you're listening to the podcast, shout out your answer. I hope you're standing in line at Albertsons and you're getting some ground turkey and some tortillas, and you're going to make some turkey tacos. And that's your game plan.
Sounds really good, actually.
And you got your AirPods in, and you're standing in line, and I'm going to ask a question, and I hope that you just say the answer, and somebody's going to be like, what the Rain Man's going on over there? That guy's just yelling numbers. So it's a number. What is the difference between the Suns, again, negative 175, last in the league in plus minus in the fourth quarter, and the Heat, who are number 29 in plus minus in the fourth quarter? What's that difference? How many more points have the Suns given up than the Miami Heat in the fourth quarter cumulatively on the season?
Can I answer that?
But of course.
12?
12. So you're
I don't
saying
know why. I'm thinking
you're
12.
saying they're a negative 163, we're a negative 165. Or 175, I'm sorry.
I think so. I mean, you know, numbers and math aren't my strongest suit. It's like, why am I covering basketball if that's the case? But I don't know. I'm sticking to that answer.
The difference is 55 points.
Oh, God, that was way off.
Yeah, the Miami Heat are a negative 120. So the Suns are bad in the fourth. The Pistons are third worst in the league at a negative 108. And then the chasm between 28 and 27, right? The Pistons to the Hornets are a negative 63. So the Suns are 112 points worse than the 20.
I didn't think it was that drastically big. I don't know why I was like hovering over the 10, 12 number.
Because you don't think, because over a long enough period of time with the Suns now playing 49 games, you think that, hey, it's not going to be that big of a difference.
Exactly.
But it is. The Suns have the second most turnovers in the fourth quarter. The team that has the most turnovers is the Utah Jazz, and they've played one more game than us. They have 2 more turnovers than the Suns do in the fourth quarter. We have 198 turnovers. We average the most in the league, 4+ turnovers.
And you mentioned the Pistons are like better than us in that category.
Yes.
Oh my God. That's how you know it's bad.
Easily.
Because they're the worst team in the league.
You know, so again, it's these are the factors when the losses happen. But again, and I talked about this earlier in the season. This is why I'm not sitting here pounding my fist at these statistics and being like, you know, what the actual F is going on? We're 28 and 21, right? So it's not like we're a team that's 7 games under 500 and this is a primary factor. We're 28, we're 21. We're the 6th seed currently in the Western Conference, which is not the play-in. And turnovers are correctable with the talent that is on this team.
Preach.
But we have to correct it, and we have time to correct it, but some semblance of focus has to come in. And Frank Vogel can sit there and talk to these guys and try to coach them up as much as he can. But he's not the one on the court committing the turnovers. He's not putting them in a position to make turnovers. He's not the one who's committing lazy passes. 8 turnovers in the fourth quarter tonight. 8 turnovers.
Yeah. I don't know.
There's not much to say there.
Yeah, I don't know.
Now, I do see a lot of people dogging Brad Beal in the chat, so let's talk about Beal.
And she said, you're not the only one, but you're the best, Bradley. Bo, bo.
So Bradley Beal tonight, yes, off night, 14 points, 5 of 16 from the field. So 16 field goals to make 14 points. That's not good. Led the team in assists, and he had the 4 turnovers. But the statistic that I see a lot of Jamsters and Geek Squadians stating is the fact that he was 0 of 7 from beyond the arc. Are you concerned in any way, shape, or form?
Well, not really. Like, yeah, the 0 for 7 is definitely bad. And, I don't know what his career 3-point percentage is, and even where he was struggling even to make some mid-range shots. But I'm going to kind of be the biased homer here and kind of defend Bradley Beal because there were a few good moments out there. Like when he had that and one drive where he laid it up against Clint Capella and everything. And I guess the reason I'm being a biased homer here is because they were talking about it on the broadcast. Not only does he already have a broken nose and has been playing with a face mask, which has clearly been bugging him, Suns fans, but he got whacked by Onyeka Okongwu, if I pronounced that correctly, and that did look like a whack and everything. So he probably re-broke his nose again, and it's like, I don't care if you're the biggest Bradley Beal hater or lover. It's like, you go put on a mask and go out there and play and try getting hit in the nose and having to play out there. It's like, and again, that neither here nor there with the bad shooting and everything, but it's like, I don't know. I'm going to be the biased homer. Not too concerned, but maybe I'll be a little more concerned if he struggles again, especially playing against the Wizards, the homecoming reunion and everything. And clearly they're one of the worst teams in the league as well. If he struggles, then maybe I'll be a little concerned. Tonight, I'm going to be the biased homer, try to be a little optimistic here and say I'm not too worried.
What game did he injure did he get whacked?
It was against the Pacers when Miles Turner, kind of.
That's right. So he came back in that game. He was 0 of 5 from beyond the arc.
Yeah.
Then the next game, he was 0 of 5 from beyond the arc. And then he was 2 of 9 against Miami. Then he was 1 of 3 against Brooklyn. And then again tonight, he was 0 of 7.
And this is all from 3-point range, right?
All from 3-point range. So he is.
So, yeah, maybe I should be panicking.
3 of 10, 17, 20, 29. He's 3 of 29. He's 10%. 3 of 29. Since he got whacked in the face.
I'm blaming the mask, man. Like I said, I'm blaming
That's
the mask.
where I'm agreeing with you, my friend.
Mm-hmm.
Everyone's freaking out, right? And Saul has it. He says, hey, he's averaging 34% from beyond the arc over the last 5 years. Yeah.
Okay.
He's playing with a mask. He's got a broken nose. He's as you mentioned, Okongwu smacked him in the face today, and they're shoving gauze. I don't know about you, but have you ever stuffed tampons up your nose and then try to run up and down a court?
No.
You're not going to be able to breathe. So there's aspects of the game that are not going to be as natural because you're worrying and thinking about other things. So is it disappointing to see him go 0 for 7? Absolutely it is. You want to see Bradley Beal, who was wide open on a lot of those plays. You want to see him knock down those shots. But ultimately, since he's had the mask put on his face, whether it's not even put on his face, since his nose was fucking busted by Miles Turner, the dude is 3 of 29 from beyond the arc.
That's pretty bad.
That's not good. And I'm guessing there's a correlation there, and that's why I'm not freaking out. Because this isn't a lack of talent. This isn't a lack of ability. This is pure and simple the fact that he is hurting since that mask has been put on and just hasn't been able to hit a shot, and he's probably in his own head a little bit. So
also too, sorry to interrupt you, our good friend Flex from Jersey had a tweet too, like it's a make or miss league, and if Bradley Beal was even shooting 25% or better than 10%, as you mentioned, we probably win this game by at least 5 pretty much. That's all I wanted to say. Like if he's just hitting because you mentioned you had a great stat right there with all the last few games and everything, how bad he's been, but in this particular game, if he's at least making a couple more of those shots.
And the same thing against the Pacers, right? Yeah. We lose to 2 points on the Pacers. He goes 0 of 5 in that fourth quarter.
Exactly.
Right?
Because again,
one of those
basketball
shots.
is simple. It really is that simple to break it down, especially in games like this.
Agreed. Completely agreed. I want to get to a couple of super chats real quick. The QC 499
right there
says, it's cheap to say I'd be glad to see a loss and learn than escape with a win, but there may be some good in exposing issues when do the changes come? And that's what we're kind of waiting on. And the changes have come. Think back to when the Clippers game at the beginning of the year, we were really lost. We ran off 7 in a row. Then we lost a couple games. Then we won 2. then we lost. I mean, it's just welcome to the NBA, everybody. Is the
Yep.
team frustrating? Yeah, every fan base is going exactly. You are not alone. I want to. David in the chat $1.99 says, "Love the show. Where's our G League team?" I think that's next year. We're going to get that G League team. Matt Ishby has been talking
Low
about.
key, can't wait for that. By the way,
Yeah, I do too. I love it. I just like having a feeder system. It just makes sense to me. All right, we got to talk about Kevin Durant.
Who the heck are you?
I'm Kevin Durant. You know who I am. Y'all know who I am.
Did anybody see a sniper? Did anybody see anything?
I'm one of the best players to ever play the game.
35 points for number 35 tonight. 14 of 24 from the field, including 5 of 9 from beyond the arc. He had 8 assists, 8 rebounds, 2 blocks, or 2 steals, 1 block. A great game from Kevin Durant, especially in that fourth quarter. I think he ended with 16 of his points in the fourth quarter.
Mm-hmm.
But in that fourth quarter, you know, when I was singing that song just then, you are not alone. Kevin Durant was alone. Booker had 0 points in the fourth. Didn't even attempt a shot. Bradley Beal had 5 points. And Drew Eubanks had 4. And all the other points were Kevin Durant. That was it. And he played the entire fourth. 6 of 8 from the field in the fourth for 16 points. Yeah, he was doing everything he can to carry us, and we just couldn't do it.
Absolutely, man. You mentioned it, and I'm going to steal this from Tom Leander, who I absolutely love on the broadcast and in the post games and everything. Duncan Durant, man, because he was dunking out there.
Yeah, he was.
Really good feeds throughout the game where he was just slamming it home, kind of reminiscent of old, or should I say younger KD, if you will. But yeah, did everything he could, man. I mean, you mentioned it, 16 points or whatever in the fourth quarter. Just sort of had that look in his eye too. Like, I'm going to get us back in the game. That's kind of why I mentioned earlier in the podcast, like if maybe a couple more things swung our way, maybe that late KD push that he did by himself would have gotten us back into this game. But he was just absolutely incredible, man. And I know there's some hardcore KD and hardcore Mikhail and Cam stands out there. And don't get me wrong, I love them too. The twins are great, but this is exactly why you trade for a guy like Kevin freaking Durant, NBA All-Star starter, by the way. And yeah, Kevin Durant was great tonight, but it just wasn't enough, man. That sucks.
Well, and the reason why John Tran nails it in the chat, he says the Lone Reaper. Exactly. He was alone, you know. I mean, fantastic Durant performance. He can only do so much, and that's where it falls. You know, like you said, all-star starter Kevin Durant continues to fortify his case to be an all-NBA player this season.
Preach.
And I love what I saw from him tonight. 5 of 9 from beyond the arc. I mean, he was just easy money snipering out there. I just felt bad because against a team like the Hawks, who, as I mentioned before, the second worst defense relative to points per game given up in the league. They give up 123 points a game, and the Suns just weren't taking advantage of it at the rate they should have been. They killed them in the fast break, and I knew they would. The Hawks give up, I think, the second or third most fast break points. The Suns outscored the Hawks 23-8 in the fast break, but it just wasn't enough because they couldn't stop them on their end of the floor. They couldn't get it out of their own way by committing turnovers. I do also want to mention a little bit of Devin Armani Booker. That's Player of the Month, Devin Armani Booker. All-Star, Devin Armani Booker.
Big Dick Booker.
I just wanted to give a shout-out to Booker for being selected to the All-Star team. Not a great game for him tonight, in my opinion. He did have 24 points, a quiet 24 points. He had 6 rebounds. He had 4 assists. He was 8 of 16 from the field. But as I mentioned, he was nowhere to be found in that fourth quarter. 0 shots taken. He played 9 minutes and 28 seconds in the fourth. 0 shots attempted by Devin Booker. What the actual... You can't tell me that the vaunted Atlanta Hawks defense was taking him out of the game. Kind of took himself out of the game in this one. Now, kudos to him, Player of the Month, 3rd time in his career, 4th time being an All-Star, and this might be the first time he's ever actually been selected to the All-Star game.
Sure, feels like it.
And will play in the All-Star game.
Exactly.
For those of you who know the Devin Booker story, the first time he was an All-Star, he was an injury replacement for Damian Lillard. The second time he was an All-Star, he was an injury replacement for Anthony Davis. The third time he was an All-Star, he was injured and didn't play in the All-Star game. And that's when he was actually selected by the coaches. So this is the year where it's like it's all kind of fallen into place. He is having an All-Star-esque season, 28 points, 7-something assists. I mean, it's his best overall season. Not his best overall fourth quarter, Geek.
Yeah, that's what's so I know I've been using the word frustrated or frustrating a lot tonight.
Stephanie's with you in the chat. She's like, I'm just so frustrated.
That's what's so frustrating, and I guess is complex the correct word here about this Phoenix Suns team is we just talked about it. Kevin Durant did all he could to get us back into the game. And Bradley Beal obviously struggled and everything, even though he had a double-double, with the 10 assists and everything.
Yeah,
but I don't get it, man. Devin Booker had a quiet 24 points.
He did.
And we still lost. Like it just does not make sense. It's funny because I'm all like, basketball's so simple and this game is so simple to break down, but like this team is so complex and frustrating at times. It makes zero sense because you if you're looking just clearly from a box score, you would think the Suns probably won this game, but it's weird. And to go along with that, because I'm big on stats and everything, we had 31 assists tonight. Now, granted, they had 29 assists, but the Suns have a really good record when we have 30 assists or more.
Yeah.
And we lost the game, man. It makes no sense. Yeah. I don't understand basketball. That's all I gotta say.
It's the turnovers.
Yeah,
it's the turnover because we outshot them. We shot 53% from the field. They shot 51. Really good. Yep. We shot 37.8% from beyond the arc. And they shot 38.6.
Yeah.
And they only had 3 more threes than we had, which I guess if mathematically 3 more threes equals what?
I don't know. I'm bad at math.
3 threes is how many points?
9.
And the final score was 129 to 120. Yeah. I think I just figured it out.
You know what? Another thing too, 17 fouls by the Suns.
Yeah, it's only.
I don't know how many free throws they made, but you get my point. 17 fouls.
So they were +9 from beyond the arc, and they were +2 at the free throw line. They were 14 of 18. We were 12 of 14. So
I like how I can do math in my head when you're talking, and then when you ask me like an easy math question,
like 3 times 3, Brandon. We're gonna get there. Okay, this, and then do it one more time. How many fingers am I holding up? That's
12.
How many points we lost by.
Everyone put in the chat, Suns Geek is bad at math. Do it right now.
Well, I will say that I was hanging out on the subreddit of the opposing team. I was in Atlanta tonight where the players play and they ride on them things like every day. It was kind of quiet. I don't have a lot to report, but I'll tell you what I found.
The Suns Jam Session subreddit stakeout.
That's right. I was there dressed as the Dark Knight. Just wanted, but I still have this Phoenix shirt on, so I probably gave away who I was. I was like, "Where is she?" And they're like, "What's that Suns fan doing here with the Batman mask on? That makes zero sense, bud." Not a lot. I think I have like 5 comments. 1, 2, 3. I only have 4 comments. The entire time. Here's what was interesting about this game. I've been on a lot of subreddits. I've seen a lot of things. I've seen a lot of derogatory comments about the Phoenix Suns. That's kind of one of the reasons that we go to the subreddit of the opposing team during the game, is we want to see what they have to say about the Suns. How are they absorbing this team? What are their frustrations? If you ask me about Trae Young or if you ask me about Luka Doncic, I'll give you like a long, drawn out, frustrating, observational rant about how I think he plays and why I'm frustrated with who he is as a basketball player. So when I go over to Atlanta, this is all they did was dog their own team the entire time, Suns Geek. They were Sadiq Bey. They hated him. But here's what they had to say. They said, Devin Booker spending 15 seconds on the shot clock every possession, hunting switches on Trae. When you got Kevin Durant and Bradley Beal waiting on the corner threes is silly basketball. I could coach up some shit better than that. Not wrong.
There was one play kind of late in the fourth quarter where they were, I think it was like a fast break, and both KD and Booker were kind of near the corner, and it looked clogged. You know what I mean? I was like,
spacing, bro. Spacing.
Yep, spacing.
Shit. The Suns got firepower.
And I said, surely we will, we do, but we didn't.
Surely we will guard Booker and Beal with Trae, Patty Mills backcourt.
And they did. And the only other thing that they had, and I thought it was kind of a funny statement, so I put it in there.
Trae hangs dong.
The Suns Jam Session subreddit stakeout.
It's kind of a lame one tonight. Normally we get some good stuff in there. The Atlanta, like I said, people in Atlanta were just dogging their own team. They were tearing apart. They love Bogey. They obviously Bogdan Bogdanovic was sniping the Suns the entire game. Ended with 25, or was it 25 or 23 points off the bench? Let's
He
click
was
on that
cooking
button.
us. That's all I know.
4-7 from beyond the arc.
Former Phoenix Sun, by the way, kind of.
Kind of, yeah, kind of. Drafted by the Suns,
Yeah.
27th overall,
He
2000.
cooked us.
Yeah, 2014. He cooked us. 23 points off the bench. DeJounte Murray is the one who shined in the fourth quarter. 22 points, 8 rebounds, 5 total assists in the game.
He was great, man.
But in that fourth quarter, it was all him, man. He had 13 points in that fourth quarter and was just dissecting the Suns. I mean, they have firepower. And then that's the thing with Atlanta. They have firepower. They've had firepower, but they don't have defense, and that's been always the run on them. But tonight, their offense was better than our defense, and our offense was not better than their defense.
Yeah, just one of those nights, man, where just a lot of things swung in their favor. And real quick on Trae Young, I think a lot of us know that he should be an all-star, especially since Julius Randle has a shoulder injury.
He will be.
Definitely. He definitely reminded the NBA, hey, you should have put me in there originally. But there was one shot, man. I forgot if it was in the fourth quarter where I think KD was guarding Trae Young and he had his hand up and everything. And I think he called over a pick and Booker came over to switch and Trae Young just popped it right in his face. I was like, damn, dude, this guy is an elite shooter. But one thing that might get overlooked is he is a really good playmaker, man. He had like 15 assists tonight.
Yeah,
Trae Young was
15.
Yeah, Trae Young was absolutely spectacular. And like I said, I always get their names mixed up, but Bogdanovich or whatever his name is cooked us. They also have a guy over there who I'm a big fan of, Jalen Johnson, man.
Yeah,
who definitely deserves to be in the most improved player category, if not win the whole thing. Just go spend like 5 minutes and watch some highlights of him. He is absolutely awesome, man. He has just been consistent. If he can figure out a way to like make jump shots and hit the 3-pointer, man, he'll be a star in this league. He's kind of an underrated rebounder too. Got good size and everything. Still very young in this league. I would have loved it if the Suns drafted him. I'm just a big fan. I don't know what it is. I'm a big fan of him, man.
Well, and with Trae Young, the sneaky thing about him this year is, the knock on him's always been that he can't play defense. Yeah. He's 8th in the league in steals. Like, he's actually added some quickness in at least that capacity.
I feel like he competes out there.
He does. And that's kind of one of the reasons, if you are the Hawks right now, you have to make a decision. Do you want to move forward with Trae Young or do you want to move forward with DeJounte Murray? Because they don't make sense. They made sense tonight against the Suns, but on a long enough timeline, they haven't made sense. This is their 21st win. They're 21-29. You look at their net rating when they're on the court together over 6,000 minutes, it's not good. It's negative.
Yeah.
So that's why you hear the name DeJounte Murray being shopped and not Trae Young, is that's who they're going to continue to try to build around. Here's the most shocking statistic to me, Suns Geek. Watching the game tonight, they're talking about Trae Young, and they're like, and in his 6th year, I was like, fucking A. Trae Young's been in the league for 6 years now.
Yep.
My God, I remember the draft. I wanted him in the draft, But of course, that was the year where we had the number 1 pick, and the one thing we needed that year, in my opinion, I'm like, we need a point guard. And there was Trae Young and Luka Doncic, but we got the number 1 pick. I'm like, fuck, we're gonna take the center. The one year I didn't want the number 1 pick. I'm like, give me the second or the third. We'll get a point guard. We'll get Luka or we'll get Trae, and we'll be set. Because we missed on the previous year because we needed a point guard, and instead we got somebody who was playing the same position as TJ Warren and Josh Jackson. I'm like, dude, De'Aaron Fox is right there, man.
Yep.
He's right there. But let's get a guy who's where's he going to play? Yep. At that time, that roster construction, TJ Warren was our was our 3. Why did we draft another 3? I never understood that. And then De'Aaron Fox.
I'll never forget it, man. One of my good friends, Kenny, told me, and he was more of a draft guy than I was. I'm not even close to being a draft guy even now and everything. But he was like, Brandon, he was like, I want us to draft De'Aaron Fox. I was like, who? And now I know his name. He's another guy that was definitely an all-star sub. Also, shout out to Domantas Sabonis as well. But yeah, man, that was just one of those, the Suns' terrible draft history, man.
Yeah, Tyrese Halliburton, another opportunity for a point guard. We just don't draft point guards for some reason, even though this franchise, the back is built on point guards.
Yep.
I was introduced to Trae Young. I believe they were playing UCLA in the Final Four.
Yeah.
And Matthew and I were at a Buffalo Wild Wings, and that game was going on every screen. But Matthew and I were sitting at the bar looking at a corner TV because that's the night that Devin Booker dropped 70 on the Celtics, and we were watching that game.
Let's
Like,
go.
we watched De'Aaron Fox. I'm like, dude, if that guy comes out in the draft, he went to Kentucky. We need this guy. And of course, Josh Jackson. Anyways, let's hand out the Jam Star.
Jam Star of the Game.
All right, Sons Geek, you're the guest of the show, or maybe I'm the guest on your show. Depends on where people are watching this. That's the funny thing about this. But I'll allow you to tell me who is your Jam Star of the Game tonight.
Kevin freaking Durant, NBA All-Star starter. I don't even care how long he has played for the Phoenix Suns. He's an All-Star starter for your Phoenix Suns. Let's go, KD. He did all he could, man. When I seriously say he had that look in his eye,
He
like
did.
he was trying to get us back in the game. He legit had it, man. But again, he can't play 1-on-5 out there.
Amen. No, I completely agree with you. It is Kevin Durant. Again, it's Kevin Durant. He's been my Jam Star a lot this year. It's gonna be. I'm tracking them this year, so I'm trying. I want to see, like, I'm gonna read them off. We do our end of year jammies, and that'll be one thing that I'm gonna bring up is kind of like who won how many Jam Stars and everything.
Yeah.
But it easily was him. So next up for the Suns, they're playing the Wizards on Sunday. As you mentioned, a bad team. A return to Washington for Bradley Beal. So the question I have for you, Suns Geek. Landry Shamet revenge game?
Probably. I just feel like we might be on one of those ends of, like, again, we kind of are in the wrong place at the wrong time. It's sort of like a midday game. Like, I don't know what time it will be in Washington, but it's an early game. Maybe Landry Shamet's pissed, and maybe Jordan Poole's like, you know what, I'm going to pretend to be an all-star for a night. Maybe he lights us up. But you know what? Again, and I feel like I was talking about this last podcast and in past videos, it's like if there's ever kind of a game where we kind of get right, if you will, close out the road trip strong, I believe. I think this is one of our last road trip games. Feels like we've been on the road forever, by the way.
This is the last one.
Against the Wizards because they are terrible. But they do have a rookie. I'm going to butcher his name here. Balai Kalabale or something like that. He's a stud, man. He's in the Rising Stars game this year. Long, athletic, and everything. So watch out for him. But they're pretty terrible, man. I hope we crush them, bro.
We should. Again, and I guess I'll ask you this question. If the Suns beat the Wizards and they come home after a 7-game road trip and are 4-3 on that road trip, is that a positive road trip?
Yeah, but I wish we would have went 5-3. Like, if we would have won this game and we won against the Wizards, you know, I would have been like, yeah, solid road trip. But this was, I mean, it's a 4-3.
Yeah, I mean, technically it's positive, and I guess I'll take that considering that there's 2 games that I kind of feel we let slip through our hands. You know, there's no moral loss, or there's no moral victories in the standings. But coming home would be great, just knowing that we survived that trip, because that's the longest road trip of the season.
Yeah, and it feels so much longer than it really is, too, man.
Yeah. Now, I will say this.
Yeah.
The Suns are 7-3 on Sundays. That's their best record relative to day of the week. 7-3. So, yeah, I remember that because last time we played on a Sunday, we won, and Matthew and I were having that same conversation. It's like, God, we won on a Sunday. It doesn't feel like that happens very often. I looked up the splits. I'm like, oh, it happens. That's our best day. And that's what it happens to be.
I was just really, really quickly going to say, like, because you were asking about the road trip and is it a positive and everything. The way I look at it, man, is we need every single win we can get. Not that I'm scared we're going to miss the playoffs or anything, but just because the Western Conference is just so loaded. And, like, you know, when we get kind of like in mid-March-ish, early April, teams might kick it up a notch. You know what I mean? Like, the standings are wild, and we just need every single win we can get. You know what I mean? Because I can't use the excuse, oh, there's so much basketball left to be played. Like, dude, we're in February now. You know what I mean? Like, I can't use that excuse anymore.
Well, and here's what's interesting, and we'll close the show out with this, and I did this last time you were on the show, is if you look at the standings in the NBA, you know, the Suns now are 6.5 games out of first place.
Wow.
And we talked about it last time you were on the show. There's essentially 3 tiers in the NBA. There's the top 4, then the middle 4, and then, like, everybody else. The top 4, Minnesota Timberwolves, are only a half game up now on the Oklahoma City Thunder, and they're a game and a half up on both the Clippers and the Nuggets.
That's nuts.
Isn't that so? That top 4 is compressing itself.
Like, look at the numbers difference too. Like, that's crazy that it's only that much of a difference.
Yeah. So between 1 and 4, it's a game and a half difference. And then you go to that second tier, right? You have the Kings, who are a game ahead of the Suns, who are 5.5 games out. But their chasm between the number 4 seed and number 5 seed is a 4-game chasm. So the Kings are currently trailing the Nuggets by 4 games. The Suns are a game behind the Kings. The Pelicans are half game behind the Suns. The Mavericks are a game and a half behind the Suns. And that's your second 4, right? 5, 6, 7, 8. Because the Lakers are 2 games out behind the Mavericks, which means they're 3.5, 4.5 behind the Suns. So
and they've been playing pretty terrible lately. So
although the Lakers did pull out somehow in Boston last night.
That was a nice win. I'll give them that.
Great White Nope went crazy on the arc. So, but that's where the standings are, Jamsters. So the Suns, the goal, in my opinion, for the Suns is try to get a 5 seed, continue to fight and just don't be in the play-in. I don't think that they can catch any of that top 4 because they're so compressed and they're going to be battling each other.
Exactly.
But if we can get a 5 or 6 seed, you're going to be okay. You're not going to end up with any of that good old-fashioned home court advantage unless there's an upset. But remember one thing, the Suns are one of the better road teams in the NBA.
Yeah.
They are one of the better road teams. They're currently 14-10, unfortunately, because of this loss, but they are a decent road team. So, so that's where we stand there, Jamsters and Geek Squad. Again, we're going to be, we'll see how Matthew's feeling on Sunday, but we'll be coming to you live after the Wizards game on Sunday afternoon. Suns Geek, tell everybody where they can find you if they don't know already.
Yeah, if you don't know already, just Suns Geek on YouTube, consistently uploading videos all the time, doing as many live shows as I can, especially around the trade deadline. I'll probably be going live a lot and everything.
Yes.
Doing YouTube shorts. I'm also on TikTok as well, Twitter, MySpace, all these links. You'll probably find me and everything. And just real quick, one more thing on the standings. I know this sounds like wishful thinking here, but if we can just play consistently and quit turning the ball over and maybe just go on a few more winning streaks before the end of the season, and maybe some of those top teams kind of, maybe lose a few games here and there, maybe we can creep back up into the play or the standings and everything. It's a wild season. I just had to get that off my chest.
We got a long way to go. 49
exactly.
games played. Okay.
Exactly.
That means there's still 32 to go.
Exactly.
So, I mean,
it's like if we can just maybe a couple more
33.
winning streaks consistently and then maybe drop a game here and there. I mean, we want to win every game possible, but you get my point. It's not realistic.
Absolutely.
And we just need to find consistency with this team, especially on the defensive end. No more of these losses where I'm saying the Suns should be kicking themselves. You know what I mean? So just had to get that out. But yeah, just, search Suns Geek and you'll find me. And John, seriously, man, I really appreciate doing these shows with both you and Matthew. Thank you guys for allowing me to put this on my platform as well. I know it helps both of our channels. And if you're a Suns Geekateer, go subscribe right now to the Suns Jam Session podcast. Go do it.
Appreciate you, Suns Geek, as per usual. You can follow me at Darth Voida on Twitter. You can read all of my writing at brightsideofthesun.com. And on behalf of both of us, just a friendly reminder. Go home. Love your family.